Welcome to the Simply Vegan podcast, brought to you by the team at Vegan Food and Living, the UK's best-selling vegan magazine. I'm Holly Johnson, and each Tuesday I get together with my colleague Molly Pickering to share what we've been eating, what's got us thinking, and the new products that are worth trying. And don't miss our Thursday podcast, where we chat to some of the leading names in veganism.
So today I'm joined by Jasmine Harman, who is a TV presenter and Veganuary ambassador. Hi Jasmine, thanks for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. I'm such a massive Place in the Sun fan.
That's so cool. Most people say, oh, my gran really loves your show.
Oh God! No, well that's showing my age then, isn't it? No, is it still going? Is that what, because obviously you're calling in from Tenerife today.
I am. Yes, in my lovely hotel room. I'm filming an episode of A Place in the Sun this week. It's my first one back this year. So, yeah, very happy to be back in slightly warmer weather, although it hasn't been amazing today. But it's, at least it's about 20 odd degrees. So I'll take that.
You can't complain. I mean, we're here in the UK with just, it's not even that cold. It's just wet. I think it's global warming, isn't it? We've just got sort of warm, wet weather now.
The weather is weird, and the weather's weird all over the place. So you're probably right.
Well, thank you so much for fitting us into your busy schedule. Do you want to start by telling us about your vegan journey and how you became involved with Veganuary?
Okay, well, it all started about 8 years ago, and that is basically when the first Veganuary happened. It was January 2014, and I had just at the end of October 2013 had my first baby, my daughter Joy, and so I had been a mother for a couple of months, and I really wanted to go vegan, and I heard about Veganuary, and I decided to try it. I think that there were 3,300 participants that year, and I was one of them. And the main reason I tried it was because although I had been vegetarian for a long time and I wanted to go vegan, I had a lot of obstacles in the way. And some of them were my own obstacles in my own head. Like, what am I going to replace? What am I going to have instead of cheese?
Yeah. What am I going to eat? There's nothing to eat.
I knew there were things I could eat, but I thought I can't live without cheese. That was one of my sort of blocks in my mind. And some of them were external factors, like, when I'm away filming on location, I won't be able to find any food. And also, my husband at the time was not vegan or vegetarian. And, he was quite resistant to me going vegan as well. So Veganuary was the perfect solution because it was only for a month. And, it just gave me a chance to dip my toe in the vegan water, if you like, and try it out. And then obviously after the month, I continued being vegan, but it was an easier step for me in my mind, and also for other people around me, for me to say, I'm doing this for a month, I'm trying it out. And then once I'd gained a bit more confidence, I was able to carry on with it. But I think the big catalyst for me was, having been vegetarian since the age of 6, and that happened as soon as I understood that meat was made out of parts of dead animals. Immediately, I said to my mum, Mummy, I'm vegetarian. Aww. And she said to me, you can be vegetarian tomorrow because I've made shepherd's pie. I vividly remember just crying into this shepherd's pie because I just couldn't bring myself to eat it. And then the next day, I was vegetarian. So from a very young age, I didn't want to hurt animals. And in a way, it's unbelievable that I got to the age of 38 before realizing that the dairy industry hurts animals and that the egg industry hurts animals. and I had never really thought about it. And also lots of other things, that as you start to understand more about living a vegan lifestyle, you realize it's things like your duvet or your shoes or your lipstick, or there are so many different factors that I never really thought about as a vegetarian. And I understand that nobody can really be perfect and do it all, but I try my best. And so anyway, I've gone around the houses completely.
That's fine.
But as a vegetarian, my reasons for being a vegetarian as a child and still as a 38-year-old mother were because I didn't want to cause any harm. And when I had my daughter, I really, really wanted to breastfeed her, but I didn't have any milk. And I was, just upset, frustrated. I thought it was so unfair that cows just produce milk for no reason. And I've got a baby here in my arms and I can't seem to get any milk. And I persevered with it and I ended up breastfeeding her for over a year and we made a success of it. But it was really, really hard. And, I had a lot of fantastic advice from lots of different people and support. And so that was great. But what I discovered in my, with a newborn baby was that cows don't make milk for no reason. And it had never occurred to me in 38 years that cows, like any mammal, will only produce milk when they have given birth to their baby. And that was such a shock to me. And when I think about it now, it's so obvious.
I know, but you just don't think. You just don't think about it.
And then I started looking into it and discovered more about the dairy industry and more about, the egg industry. And that was where I started. I started it with food. And then obviously, over the years, it's expanded in my life to encompass, other things as well, like cosmetics and clothing and everything else. So it really was, for me, just a massive wake-up call. And whenever I speak to people about it, they're really shocked as well. And you might speak to somebody who's in their 60s and they say, oh, that's never occurred to me either. What happens to the baby when we take the mother's milk? And what happens to the mother when she is, spent and or what happens to, even chickens? They live a fraction of their normal lifespan because they are living in such poor conditions, and because we are taking their eggs away from them every day. It takes a lot for a chicken to produce an egg, and it depletes their body and their resources, and so they're usually culled after less than a year. And so things like that, people think, oh, eggs don't kill. The chicken doesn't have to die to produce chicken, but eventually they do. And that's the same with the mother cow, and that's the same with the calf. Eventually, all animals that are used for commercial use all end up in the slaughterhouse.
Yeah, because it's a commercial industry, isn't it? So if they're not producing enough eggs, so my mum and I rescued some chickens, and from a free range farm, which was not at all how I expected it to be. Absolutely,
no, I can imagine.
Thousands of chickens packed into a shed. Yeah. And they were £1.60 each, which is the same price that they'd get if they sent them to slaughter, because they'd stopped producing enough. Well, my mum, we got as many as we could into boxes and took them back to my mum's house, and they produced loads and loads of eggs, but obviously it wasn't enough to make it, it wasn't enough
to keep them.
Exactly. So
no, exactly. And there's a massive misconception that people have about buying free range or buying humanely slaughtered or whatever weird concept that is. you know, or buying organic, you know, that they are doing enough. But, you know, you're absolutely right. If a hen is producing less than one egg a day, then they're not going to be viable anymore. And when you think that their life is worth £1.60, it's absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
You know, it's unbelievable. It doesn't make any sense when you start thinking about it logically. And that's like most things. If you were to say to somebody, you know, to have the milk of another species, I mean, pick any species in the world apart from those that we are socially conditioned to think it's okay to drink the milk from, like cows, or we have goats milk, or some, you know, sheep cheese or whatever.
Yeah.
If you were to think about having the milk of another
A cat or a dog.
or yeah, anything, even a horse, you know, or it would just be so weird. So how come it's not weird to think of having cow's milk? I mean, it would even be weird to think of having dairy products that were produced from human milk. Like, even that's weird. So how can it not be weird to have milk from another species? I mean, it's just when you actually start like digging into it and thinking about it, it's just kind of gross.
It is. Jasmine, can I just say, I'm not good at maths, but I'm just trying to add up. So you said you had your first child at 38.
Yes, well, she was born just before I turned 38, but exactly, yes.
Right. So how old is she now?
She's
You're 46.
8 now. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she's just turned 8, and my little boy is 6 now.
Wow. So we're recording on video camera, and can I just say, you look incredible for 46. I've just turned 40. I've just turned 43, and I feel like I look about 20 years older than you.
Oh, you look amazing. You look beautiful. I thought you were. I'm looking at you. I thought you were like in your 20s.
Oh
I'm not even joking.
No, I mean, I have to admit here to our listeners that we are recording fairly late in the evening, and I am in my pajamas, and Jasmine is looking absolutely glamorous with her.
I've not long finished work, so I've got my makeup on and my hair done. So
I feel better now.
Yes, so you know, I don't look like this when I'm going to bed. Definitely
good. I'm glad.
Wake up in the morning. That's even awesome.
So, do you think it's kind of a feminist issue then? Because I kind of looked into this earlier, just thinking about it. And I actually read that the suffragettes were actually ethical vegetarians, because the term veganism wasn't coined until after they, you know,
their movement.
Exactly, their movement. So they saw meat as a product of violence. And obviously female animals, you know, chickens, like we talked about, and cows, are exploited, aren't they, for their reproductive systems, I guess. So do you think that veganism and feminism are kind of connected?
I think that there is definitely 100% a feminist issue there. I did not know that about the suffragettes. That is an amazing fact. I love that fact. But when you think about it, of course, you know, all animals are abused if they are being used commercially for their products, or for their skin, or whether it's for their meat, or for whatever it is, and in many cases it can be male or female. But when you start to think about products like dairy products or eggs, you know, where and even, you know, even pork products, you know, the reproductive systems of the animals, largely female animals, because obviously they may have they need to have a male animal, but they might only need to have one, you know, for several females. And the female animal is the one who takes the brunt of it, going through pregnancy, or, you know, or laying her eggs. And so it is their reproductive system that's being abused and commercialized, because cows are forcibly impregnated by artificial insemination. You know, an egg is basically a chicken's period.
Yeah, I know. when someone told me that, I was like, okay, I'm happily never ever eating eggs ever again.
Well, it is, isn't it? Because if
It
a
is.
human doesn't get her egg fertilized, then she has a period and the egg comes out. Same for a hen. If a hen's egg that comes out that's not fertilized, it's what we eat as humans. That is her
Yeah.
menstrual waste. So it's just like mind blowing. But and it is absolutely from insemination, pregnancy, from calves being taken away, female calves being used in the same way as their mothers are. It's definitely a feminist issue, and that's not to say that male animals aren't mistreated as well, because male calves are often killed shortly after birth, or they might be raised for veal, or they might be raised for something else, but usually not for beef, because there are different species, different types of cattle that they use. Male chicks are usually killed horrifically, at a day old. So, both male and female animals do have a terrible time in these industries. But when I think about what would I prefer if I were to, would I prefer to live a life where I was forced to have babies over and over and over again, where my babies were taken away, my milk was taken every day, and then I was killed? Or would I prefer to just be fed every day to get fat and then killed? They're both pretty bad. But I would personally think that being a female in that situation is going to be actually quite a bit worse.
Yeah. Oh, it's just awful, isn't it? It's just horrible. And I just can't believe that it's still happening in this day and age, really. I mean, did you hear the news about Morrison's with they've changed the labeling on their dairy milk so that rather than having like a use by date, they're telling people to like sniff the milk. It just sounds ridiculous. Sniff the milk and see if it's gone off before pouring it down the drain, because there's such a huge amount of wastage with the cow's milk in the supermarkets, and you just think these poor cows are going through all this, and then we're just tipping it down the drain.
Yeah, and that goes for food waste just generally as well. But it is horrible. Sometimes if I'm away on location and we eat out in a restaurant, obviously not, there are lots of people in my team who eat meat, and there are more vegetarians and vegans and more people making ethical choices, and everyone's much more open to it now. And there are loads more options. But if somebody, for example, sat on the table with me, orders a mixed grill, and they've got 3 different types of dead animal on their plate, and they're just eating it without, and I'm thinking,
yeah,
you can't even look.
That must be hard.
And then they don't eat half of it.
Yeah, and you're thinking,
someone's died to give you this meal, and in fact 3 lives have gone to give you this meal, and you're going to throw it in the bin. I find it really upsetting and very disrespectful, and but that is just really evidence of the total disconnect between animals and food on someone's plates. There is no connection, because if people make the connection, most people wouldn't really want to be a party to that anymore.
No, they wouldn't. How do you find it eating? Because obviously, I mean, presumably COVID's interrupted your, traveling and everything. But how do you find it when you are abroad eating vegan?
It's so much better now. I mean, almost everywhere we go has got vegan options. The Happy Cow app is an absolute lifesaver in many situations. But it's so much better everywhere you go, even in random places where you think they'll never have anything here. They do understand much more frequently what vegan means. And also, even if they don't really get it, most establishments have to know all about the allergens in their food now. So we can always find out if it contains eggs, or if it contains fish, or if it can, whatever other ingredients might be suspect in there, we can ask, and they are obliged to know and to be able to tell us. So it's got so much easier. There are loads of really lovely vegan restaurants and also other types of restaurants that offer lovely vegan options now. So I'm finding it a pleasure and much, much easier to be able to eat good food wherever I go now.
Oh, that's brilliant news. That's what we want to hear. So are you raising your family on a vegan diet then? Because like you said, you've got 2 children.
Yeah, well, my children aren't vegan. They are vegetarian. And when I was first pregnant, I was vegetarian. And so between my husband and I, we decided that this baby would be vegetarian. My husband was a meat eater at the time, although I always say he was a closet veggie anyway. So when Joy was born, that was what we'd agreed. He was a meat eater, I was vegetarian, she was vegetarian. And so over the years, I've taught my children, both of them, about what dairy involves, obviously in an age appropriate way, which is quite difficult because it is quite gruesome.
Yeah, it is hard.
And so they understand it. They eat vegan most of the time. But if they go to a birthday party and have a piece of cake, I'm not going to lose my mind about it because, we can never be perfect, but I'm really happy that they are being, they understand more than most of their friends. They tell their friends what their food is, which is like, it sort of gets the information out there to the children, because most parents don't want their children to know that they're eating dead animals, because most children won't want to do that. And my husband is now vegetarian. It was actually my daughter that persuaded him to go vegetarian, and we were having a meal out. We were in a pizza place and I had a vegan pizza, and he had a pizza with pepperoni on it. And she asked him if she could have a slice of his pizza. And he said no, because it's not vegetarian. And she asked him what was on it. And he said pepperoni. And she said, "What's pepperoni?" And he could not bring himself to tell her. And so when you think to yourself, I'm eating something that I can't even bring myself to tell my child, I shouldn't be eating this. Yeah. And so he immediately went vegetarian after that. This was after about 14 years of me trying to persuade him unsuccessfully. But, he's been veggie now for about 3 or 4 years. And also, mostly vegan as well. We went out to a fantastic vegan restaurant the other night, and we took some friends of ours who are not vegan, and they had an amazing meal, and they were shocked, because in fact one of them was saying on the way there, "I didn't know it was a vegan place we were going to," and he said, "I guess I can have 3 desserts." And then he had an amazing meal, so it was really great.
This is the thing, it's just, things are getting so much better all the time, and it's just brilliant, isn't it, when people who are so kind of out of the vegan space and don't get it at all and just think, why would you want to do that, come to somewhere with you and enjoy the food, and they're like, oh, okay. It's like Alison Hammond on This Morning.
Oh yeah,
so good. She obviously had no experience or very little experience of vegan food, tried the nuggets. She was like, well, why are we eating chicken? And it's it's so true.
Why do we have to kill someone, I know. When you can have the same taste and the same texture. And to be honest, some of the meat alternative products are so convincing that even I can't bring myself to eat them.
I know.
Some of them are just a bit too convincing. And I think, no, that's too much for me. But it's funny, like some of the burgers which have beetroot in it, and they sort of bleed on the plate. I'm like, I can't cope with that. Even though I know it's beetroot, visually it just puts me off.
I know. I had a family member the other day saying, "Why do vegans want everything to be like meat if you don't want to eat animals? And why would you want your burger to bleed?" And I said, "Well, number one, we're not necessarily asking for a burger that looks like it's bleeding. It's just, the food producers are producing these things. But number two, some people aren't vegan for the animals. They're vegan for other reasons, such as health or environmentalism. And actually, they miss like meat, and they enjoy the flavour and the texture and everything. So,
to be honest with you, even people who are vegan for the animals may still enjoy the taste of an animal, but they feel that the animal's life is worth more than that moment of sensory pleasure. And that is why I think, someone who's vegan for whatever reason hasn't gone vegan because they don't like the taste of meat. They've gone vegan because, it's cruel. Killing animals for their food is cruel and unnecessary. They've gone, maybe it's their health, maybe it's the environment, whatever reason it is. No one, show me one person that's deliberately said, I'm going to go vegan because I hate the taste of meat. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. So it's not because they don't like the taste or the look. It's because they don't want to hurt animals. They don't want to ruin their health. They don't want to kill the planet. Whatever the reason is, that's why it makes it much easier for somebody to be kind, to be compassionate, to be healthier, to be kinder to the planet if they can have a plant-based alternative where they don't feel like they're missing out.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a silly question to ask, really. Why do vegans want things to look and taste like meat? Well, because nobody went vegan because they didn't like the taste of meat.
Yeah.
What? It's a crazy question.
Well, that's
these silly questions.
I'm gonna be playing this to that certain family member. Thank you, because it was one of those sort of Christmas family get-togethers, where you kind of get those, attacks by the. Well, what about this? What about that? But just quickly going back to raising a family. So, I mean, I'm very similar. So, as I've got two children, I've got a 15-year-old girl who is vegan and a 10-year-old boy who is not vegan. I think he'd like to be, but he's a typical 10-year-old boy. He doesn't like this, he doesn't like that, he doesn't like mushrooms. Every day there's something else that he doesn't like. And I'm sure one day he will be eating a hell of a lot more food types. But at the moment, he's very, picky. And yeah, I think he'd like to be vegan, but he also likes the taste of meat. And it is difficult. And I think this kind of turns off a lot of mums or dads, because, it's like, oh, well, the children are eating meat, I'm trying to be veggie or vegan. Do you find it difficult cooking meals at home? How do you work it?
My children eat vegan at home. I don't know. I wouldn't cook stuff for them that's not vegan.
No.
So most of the time they are vegan. They might, if they do go out or go to a friend's house or something. Most of their friends are really accommodating as well. But, obviously if they go to something like a party or whatever, they might have something that's not vegan. Or if my husband's cooking for them, he might sometimes cook something for them that's not vegan. But it is difficult when different people in the household are eating different things. But I think, my children are pretty good at eating their fruit and veg. They like their fruit and veg, but they also like their chocolates and sweets and junk food, as well. And they like to have nuggets or a hot dog or whatever. And I'd much rather them have a vegetarian, vegan hot dog than to have them eat processed red meat that's exactly the same and is a grade 1 carcinogen. I mean, it's just a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think there are challenges with children, and I think it's hard to change something. It's hard to change their habits when they're in habits already, or to say to them, "Oh, you're never going to have that again." They kind of have to come round to that decision themselves with your encouragement. And so that's why, I mean, it depends what stage you're at. If you do it from birth and they've always been used to that and they've never been missing out, that's fine. Although I do have a couple of friends whose children have been vegan since birth and have, sort of gone to the dark side and tried milk chocolate or, tried McDonald's or whatever, because they'd never tried it and all their friends are having it and they wanted to try it. And I think that sort of exploration is sort of a natural, normal part of growing up and of life. So with, however hard you try, you may find that you have your setbacks along the way.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you're raising your children with knowledge and compassion, they will do the right thing themselves eventually, I think.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. And it makes me feel a lot better because I really wish I'd raised both mine from, vegan from birth, but I've only been vegan 4 years, so I didn't know.
No, I feel the same, and and it's hard because obviously, there's a lot of work involved if you want your child to be vegan, but also to not miss out, because if they go to a party, then you've got to send some cake for them to have with them, or you've been for a pizza. I mean, most pizza places now are able to accommodate vegans, but up until the last year or so, a lot of them still weren't. So there is more work cut out for it, but I just think that if my children have a non-vegan food a couple of times a week, then it's not perfect, but unfortunately we can never be perfect, but it's better than nothing.
Exactly, yeah. And we live in a very busy world. We live in the modern world, and at the end of the day, the Vegan Society's kind of definition of veganism is to just kind of do your best, isn't it? Really, whatever is practically possible. So I think that's definitely the way to go. Well, I won't keep you for too much longer, Jasmine, because I know you've had a long day filming out in Tenerife.
Yeah, it's been fine. It's all good. Can't complain.
You've got sunshine, yeah. Why am I being sympathetic here? I'm sat in the UK with like constant rain.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's all good here. We had a good first day back, and I've just been sat in the car park doing a voiceover in the car. It's all very glamorous,
Oh, bless you. Well, just to finish, what tips would you give to someone who's completely new to veganism, who just doesn't know where to start, feels a bit overwhelmed? What advice would you give?
I would say there are so many great products out there. And let's say you want to try an alternative to a burger or your favorite ice cream or, a bar of chocolate or a pizza, whatever it is, try those things, but try and enjoy them in their own right. Because sometimes, like for example, for me with cheese was the hardest thing for me to give up. And, there are some great vegan cheeses out there now, but not that many. But I enjoy the ones that I like. I enjoy them in their own right. I'm not saying this is exactly the same as a mature cheddar, or this is exactly the same as a camembert or whatever type of cheese. But it's actually really delicious and really tasty in its own right. And so I think, although yes, there might be comparisons, and some things you might say, well, that doesn't taste the same, or you might be saying, well, I can't tell the difference.
Yeah,
great. But also, you might find things that are new to you and that are really tasty and really enjoyable in their own right and don't need to be compared to anything else. So that's a great way to approach alternatives. And the other thing, and the other side of the coin really, is to try out new things, like try out different things. I make spaghetti bolognese for my kids with lentils, and they love it. And they haven't really noticed that I've stopped using like vegan mince and I've started using lentils. They've not even noticed. So because I use the same seasoning and I use the same, veggies in it and the same garlic and onion, whatever else, just try something different. Try swapping out some ingredients. Try something you've never tried before. Maybe go out to a restaurant, look up some recipes online. There are so many ways to do it. But if you're having a struggle and you're not sure what to do, just think, okay, if I weren't doing Veganuary, or if I weren't trying to be vegan right now, what would I like to eat? And then find a vegan alternative or vegan version of that, because most dishes out there have all been veganized. I mean, I'm a partner in a food company called The Brook, and our toefish has won an award for being so fantastic. So, for example, you think, how can you have fish? It's vegan, but it's really, there's everything you could possibly want out there has been veganized from all different cuisines. There are amazing vegan influencers all over the world who are showing their own traditional cuisines in a vegan way. And so I think just use the resources that are at your fingertips online and in the supermarkets. Just go hunting out those products and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's brilliant advice. I think we have to feel so lucky, don't we, that we are vegan or trying veganism in this day and age, because it's just so easy now. There's so much information, so many products. It's just
honestly brilliant. If for any of the old school veggie vegan people that might be listening to this, in the 70s and 80s, when we used to go to the health food shop to get stuff like sauce mix. It's like a powdery stuff that you added water to, and then you could make it into shapes like sausages or meatballs or burgers, and things like there were tins of, it was called tender bits, and I think it was seitan, but it was like a can in a can, and it was like cat food. That's what we had as meat replacements back in the day. Yeah. So now, I mean, you're absolutely spoiled for choice if you're somebody who's going vegan right now, because there's never been a better time or more products available to try than there are now.
Big up the old school vegans, we have to say.
Yeah. Old school vegetarian.
Well, veggies, yeah. You've done well. Thank you so much, Jasmine. You are an inspiration, and look forward to seeing you. When's the next series out?
It's out now. It's out. In fact, it's just started last week. We've got 5 weeks of new episodes on Channel 4, but we're filming all year round, so there'll always be plenty of new ones coming on.
Thank you so much.
Well, I hope today's episode gave you some food for thought. Molly and I are back on Tuesday when we will be sharing our health hacks. And next Thursday, I'll be chatting to Marisa Heath from the Plant-Based Food Alliance, who's fighting for change in our food systems.